Everybody seems in such good spirits. And the two teams just lining up for the benefit of photographers and crowd alike. And when they break, we'll check on the lineups, and we'll start with Nottingham Forest, because their team news did raise a few eyebrows. Gary Parker is back at number 6, and Gary Crosby returns at number 7. No surprises there. But at number 10 and number 11, the selection of 20-year-old Lee Glover and 23-year-old Ian Wone, in preference to Nigel Jemson and Steve Hodge, not widely anticipated. Jemson is on the bench, but Hodge, with only 90 minutes football in 6 weeks, is not in the 13. And the explanation for the choice of Glover I'll come to later. West Ham United have picked Trevor Morley, wearing number 11, as their only out-and-out striker. Jimmy Quinn on the bench. A lot will depend there on the role of number 8, Stuart Slater. We may well find him wide on the left, and pretty certain to find Kevin Keane in number 10, wide on the right. And don't confuse him, by the way, with Roy Keane of Nottingham Forest, who's wearing number 8 in their lineup. So Tony Gale at number 4 there did pass his fitness test, and Ray Stewart is a substitute. The explanation for the appearance of Lee Glover, who's a player who's had such bad luck with injuries in recent years, still not up to his 21st birthday. He's in because Ronnie Fenton, the Forest assistant manager, tells me they feel he is a more dangerous player against West Ham. It's a choice which is really determined by the opposition. So they're going to hope that Glover and Nigel Clough, with their quicksilver feet, can trouble Foster and Gale at the back for West Ham. It's a tactical choice, really, and as I say, they have got Jemson on the bench in case it doesn't work. The referee could not be more experienced. It's Keith Hackett from Sheffield. His two linesmen are Bob Andrews from Warrington, who will be on the dressing room side, the far side from us, and Paul Regier from Tipton on our side. The sun shining on this stately setting as the two teams compete for the right to play Tottenham Hotspur in the 1991 FA Cup final. This is Gary Charles for Forest, playing from the left. Charles preferred at right back, and he has Slater in his sights there, who has started on the left, with just Morley up front from the kick-off for West Ham. Foul by Charles. So Forest have the free kick, and it's gone to Walker. Slater. The captain is Bishop, number 7, and there was a foot up there. Number 6, Gary Parker on Ian Bishop.
I think it's very important that Mr. Hackett calms things down. A little bit tight at the moment in the middle of the field, and some of these tackles a little dangerous. He's making sure that he stamps on it quite early so the players know what's expected of them.
So can the Czech goalkeeper there perform more heroics as he has for so much of the season in the second division? Build-up here, West Ham's league form has been rather more consistent than that of Nottingham Forest, but what does that matter on semi-final day? It's so much a one-off occasion, as was proved at Wembley. Wone to Pearce. Already hear the strains of I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles coming from the West Ham section. As Pearce takes the free kick into Nigel Clough. Parker running on well. It is Gary Parker. Nearly ran for Keane. Parker! Very close for Forest. And again, the ball kept low. Moved about well. Parker made the first surge here. It nearly ran on for Roy Keane with his left foot. He just jabbed it back to Parker, and not far away. Oh, was short, and Morley got a foot in where Chettle really wasn't too certain. He didn't put enough weight on the pass, and Morley had the sight of goal for a moment there. And he jabbed it into the body of Crossley. Now it's Nigel Clough for Forest, out to Ian Wone. Keane. Both Keanes involved, actually. Kevin darting in to prevent Roy from finding a way through. Steve Chettle would have been a relieved man there. That back pass towards Crossley was under hit. This is Gale, across to Houghton. Wide to Slater. He's got a personal battle here against Gary Charles, as Slater, in the same way that Houghton here has got one against Crosby. Bishop, good turn. Allen. In goes Walker, strong tackle. Glover's there. Allen's also a good tackler, wins it back. Morley. Kevin Keane looks for George Paris. Allen's running on well. A lot of quick thinking going on out there. Roy Keane was aware of the danger and went to help his back four. Martin Allen thwarted. Wone. Clough. There's not very much space around. As yet, the forward players unable to break away. Foster. Is Kevin Keane. Keith Hackett was allowing Kevin Keane to get back on the pitch before Stuart Pearce took the throw. Here's Nigel Clough. 25 minutes gone at Villa Park, and nothing between First Division Nottingham Forest and Second Division West Ham. Morley battling with Chettle. Still Morley. Kevin Keane. Slater's in the middle. That was Gary Charles' header out. George Paris coming in. Play on, says Keith Hackett. This is Steve Potts for West Ham. Good challenge by Ian Wone for Forest, but Potts wins it back. And here comes Charles away from Slater. And now Gary Crosby for Forest up against Tony Gale. And Crosby had the pace, and Gale bumped him down. Keith Hackett goes straight to his pocket. It's, what, 22, 23 yards out, the challenge. Crosby was away from Gale, and Gale came in, and it's red. It's the cynical foul on the player in the goal-scoring opportunity. Tony Gale has been sent off the pitch in the FA Cup semi-final. What a sensation. Keith Hackett says that's the way the law is, you've got to go. And I'm not so sure that there won't be controversy about that decision. Bobby Charlton is shaking his head. Here's what happened. Did he push him? Did he bump him? Did he pull him back by the shirt? Well, he certainly went over. And West Ham United have been reduced to 10 men, and Tony Gale is sent off in the FA Cup semi-final. We'll debate that after the free kick, Bobby Charlton, because Forest have got an opportunity here. Parker has lined the ball up, Pearce is there, so is Nigel Clough, and West Ham, for obvious reasons, are rocking. And it's Nigel Clough into the wall. Walker. Keith Hackett went to his pocket the instant that collision happened. Here's Pearce. That's another free kick. And West Ham now have got to keep their composure. They could hardly have expected that to happen. After, what, 27 minutes, they're down to 10 men. And a shock sending off for Tony Gale. There's a spectator on the pitch, having to be ushered away, and tempers are rising here. We'll have to stay with the play, though. It's Pearce. It's Chettle. And now it's Foster. Who goes and plays in central defence? Perhaps Steve Potts to go back there where Gale was. We'll see what the reorganisation means to West Ham. Here's Slater on the break. And Slater again. And it's wide to Martin Allen. And West Ham force a corner. Well, talk about up against it. They're going to have to play nearly three-quarters of this FA Cup semi-final, a man short. And with teams like Nottingham Forest and West Ham, I think the last thing we expected today was a sending off. There was one the last time West Ham played here in a semi-final, strangely, against Everton. Brian Kidd was ordered off that day for something rather more violent, I remember. There was a bit of fisticuffs that day. But for the moment, it's a corner to West Ham. To be taken by Kevin Keane. Allen. And Foster's there. And Paris is there. Great save, Crossley. Away by Roy Keane. Kevin Keane. Slater for West Ham. Fell over his own feet initially. And George Paris hit one there that looked to be on its way. But on their way now, Forest with Parker. Crosby. And it's Gary Parker. Keane goes to the right. West Ham funnel back. Allen. Slater so nimble. Well, Roy Keane seemed to bring him down, but play goes on. This is Nigel Clough. And Roy Keane now in the attack for Forest. Parker. This is Gary Charles. Oh, space for Nigel Clough. And Glover. I think Nigel Clough was trying to find Charles with that pass. Here's Morley. Free kick to West Ham. Of course, West Ham already without Frank McAvenny today due to a sending off and a subsequent suspension. Here's Chris Hughton. Fisher. Martin Allen. Paris. Kevin Keane. Paris continues his run forward for West Ham. In the middle is Morley, and that's going to be a corner conceded by Roy Keane. And Colin Foster will make his way up from the back, but no Tony Gale to go with him now. Kevin Keane to flight the corner in. That was Foster, and Crossley comes to meet Trevor Morley, and the referee says that's a foul.
Well, West Ham down to 10 men now. They've reshuffled a few players around, but really it's had more of an effect on their attitude. They seem to be more positive, want to go forward now and take a few chances. Of course, the longer the game goes on, you know, the more that they will feel this. Still, you see Des Walker in the middle of the field. He's gesticulating with Stuart Pearce over something. They're obviously not satisfied with the way they're performing at the back, especially against 10 men. But it is a situation that's really controversial. I think because the games are so important, you know, that they always give the best referees to these fixtures, and sometimes the pressure, I feel, gets to them. I know what you say, John, when you say that it's not a case of the referee having to use his common sense. He has to apply the rules as he's given them. Nevertheless, I think that unless it's an out-and-out direct shot at goal or a chance that's being stopped by an unquestioned foul, then I think that they really should look to favour the defender. I think that the player, Gary Crosby, was running away. It was on his left-hand side of the field. That's not for the referee to know, but nevertheless, he was running into a position where it was less likely that he was going to score. And he's made the decision anyway. I have to stick with it. West Ham have to deal with it.
They certainly do. Oh, Des Walker making an unusual mistake. This is Slater up against Charles. The England defender sold himself there in a way he very rarely does. Anyway, got away with it for the time being. Here's Morley. Slater back to Bishop. Difficult ball for Houghton. He did well enough, though. Trying to get Morley in behind Charles. Free kick. Threatening position now for West Ham. If they can get the delivery right from here, there could be fireworks. Bishop can usually pinpoint these. He's got Morley, Allen and Foster to aim at. Foster's saying, give it some air. Not enough, it seems. Keane to Paris. And there's Gary Parker. Now this could be a break for Forest if it's played right. They've got Wone, Glover and Clough up. This is Wone. Two more coming the other way now. 7 in the attack. This is Parker. Stuart Pearce steams down the left. Corner given. It was Kevin Keane and Potts who went to meet him. And now it's the turn of Steve Chettle to go forward for Nottingham Forest. Lee Glover and Nigel Clough taking up positions inside the 6-yard box. Keane is there too. Too high for Chettle, cleared by Foster. Crosby. Well, so far, Forest have been unable to make the extra man tell. Slater. Nice skill. Kevin Keane. To his right, Martin Allen. And the ball comes off Pearce, but the advantage is West Ham's. Referee Hackett right to let play go. Keane to Paris. Still George Paris. Allen. Lofted shot from Martin Allen.
Another shot there from Martin Allen. It wasn't actually a shot, it was more of a chip. I think he expected the goalkeeper to come out and narrow the angle and leave his goal unattended. Just overhit it.
For anybody who's joined the match late, you've had one sensation here at Villa Park, and I think that word can be used for what happened. Tony Gale sent off after 25 minutes for the cynical offence when a player was going towards goal. Or certainly past the last defender, let's put it that way for the time being. Here's Crosby. Roy Keane. Going back to the incident, funnily enough, Crosby started about 5 yards behind Tony Gale. I think Gale was almost surprised to see him come past him. Here's Slater. Kevin Keane. Walker on Slater. Nice pass by Nigel Clough to Roy Keane. Crosby. Oh, that's not really where Parker wanted it, but he got it out to Pearce. This is Wone. 5 minutes left in the first half, no score. Clough for Nottingham Forest, Pearce runs on. But the final ball really applies to both sides, has not been delivered perfectly up to now.
No, Nigel Clough won't be pleased with that one. Stuart Pearce ran about 50 yards to get to it and expected a little bit better service than that. But some of it has been a little untidy when it got near the box. And it's where you need that little bit of extra flair that good midfield players can come into their own. At the moment, West Ham seem to want to be trying to settle the game down a little bit. They see that it's getting near half-time, so they're not going to try anything desperate and make any silly mistakes while they've only got 10 men and the manager can have a talk about it at half-time. But it really has changed the whole course of this match. Certainly West Ham are trying that a little bit harder, trying to make up for the spare man. Forest, it seems to have affected them worse. nevertheless, these sort of players should have the skill to be able to overcome that.
Kevin Keane looking for Allen. Walker goes across. Allen tumbles. No foul. But Kevin Keane blocks the clearance from Walker, who tries again. There isn't much thread to the game at the moment, and I think it is a bit unfair perhaps to expect these players to produce on this surface what Tottenham and Arsenal achieved at Wembley. We're into stoppage time at the end of the first half, and this is Bishop for West Ham. Sliding it out to George Paris. Morley comes to the near post, Walker's header clear. Then a cool piece of play from the man Bobby Charlton was talking about, 19-year-old Roy Keane. Paris will take the throw for West Ham. Slater's in there. And at that moment, Keith Hackett signals for half-time, and he is the man at the centre of the incident that will be talked about most in the interval. And as the managers and the players leave the pitch, the score at Villa Park is Nottingham Forest 0, West Ham United 0. Just a reminder of the substitutes. Forest have, as you say, Nigel Jemson on the bench with Brian Laws, and West Ham have Jimmy Quinn and Ray Stewart. Do you see any change in the tactics, Bobby Charlton, in the second half?
No, I don't. I think that they'll maybe just keep George Paris at the right-hand side here and do without a man up front. I think that because they've never given any clear-cut opportunities for the Forest forwards, I think that they'll probably hope that they can do that for the next 45 minutes and hopefully go for a draw. I think that will be shown more as it goes nearer to the end of the game. Usually, second division sides, we find, don't usually play at the same pace right throughout the season as do the first division. And whenever we see these sort of confrontations, it's usually late on in the match that the second division sides cave in. But I think eventually they'll be forced to go back, and I don't know whether they'll be able to hold it. Young Steve Potts, who is a right back, has gone into the central position and doesn't have the same sort of pace of authority as he could be able to get away with if he was playing at right back. So I think that they're always going to look to try and capitalise on this and send good balls through, especially long ones, as you just saw there from Stuart Pearce.
It was Stuart Slater who forced the corner for West Ham. It's going to be taken by the captain, Bishop. Foster is forward. A lot of height on that. Here comes the goalkeeper to meet Foster. He got some length on the punch, did Mark Crossley. This is Kevin Keane. Forward by Chris Hughton. Bishop. Allen. West Ham still playing with just Morley through the middle, but the midfield players are expected, like Allen did there, to make the extra man. But in midfield itself, it's very tight. A lot of players compressed into that central third of the pitch. Nigel Clough, a nice touch to Glover, but can't get the return. And Slater. Such a clever player on the ball, but like many more, his final pass fell rather short. Here's Pearce. Wone. Nigel Clough. Oh, good skill to go past Allen. Now he's got support coming up here from Roy Keane and from Gary Crosby on the right wing with a chance for Forest, and Crosby has scored. Nottingham Forest take the lead in the FA Cup semi-final. And the scorer is Gary Crosby, 5 minutes into the second half. It was the best chance so far, but he took it with some aplomb. Nigel Clough makes all the running here, slides the ball into Roy Keane. Keane skips a challenge, feeds it out to Crosby. McCloskey has to narrow the angle, and Crosby finds a way through him. It's 1-0 Forest. An explosive start to the second half here. And Nigel Clough, the manager's son, opens up the West Ham defence with the help of Keane. And Crosby, that's a very good finish. Low down by the goalkeeper's right hand. Well taken, Bobby Charlton.
Yes, problems now for West Ham, I'm afraid. But there again, through the middle of the field, a little interception by Niall Clough, and Roy Keane picking the ball up and actually being positive, knowing exactly where he was, and put Gary Crosby in. Really good play by the young midfield player from Southern Ireland, because it was a situation where he had to have a good engine to get there. He was always thinking about his position, where the rest of his players were, and very, very competent play.
So the 10 men are a goal behind, and here's Morley. That's the first time in their 3 FA Cup semi-finals in the last 4 years that Brian Clough's team have scored first. Gary Crosby is the man who made it happen. Will it be a passport to Wembley, I wonder? Long way to go. Nigel Clough again. This time Parker is the runner. There wasn't a flicker of emotion on the face of the Forest manager when we saw him just after the goal had been scored. As befits a man perhaps who's waited so long and knows it could still be snatched away. Here's Parker. But if Forest continue to press forward, Glover, well, that's holding by Foster. I sympathise a bit with Keith Hackett. He thought there was an advantage and let Glover go, and the fact that that didn't accrue can't really be blamed on the ref. It was Colin Foster's foul. Glover. There's a bit of movement up there now. Nigel Clough again. This is Wone. Good running by Roy Keane. The ball went just behind him, and Bishop snapped it up. It was a classic Forest break, that, when they come from the middle of the field with reinforcements and move the ball about well. Crosby making the extra man on the outside and tucking it away, I have to say, very deftly indeed. This is Allen for West Ham. Can they come back? Houghton. Paris. Good strong run by George Paris. He's found Slater. That's dangerous. Oh, he's hit the post. Stuart Slater so close. The second time they've hit the post, West Ham. And I don't think there was a deflection then. Slater cut inside. No, that was a genuine effort going into the near corner, caught the post. So, a corner. Bishop to take it. There's Foster. Ooh, Forest had to rely on Pearce there. Up goes Nigel Clough. Good touch by him. And little Gary Crosby. Free kick. He was fouled by Bishop. Crosby, who played in the semi-final 3 years ago against Liverpool, when Brian Clough predicted a big future for him. There's a big future for this lad too, by the way, Slater, who just hit the post. Well, since then, Crosby's had a lot of injury trouble, but he returned today, and he's made his mark in the semi-final with the opening goal. Here's Wone. Wone again, and Nigel Clough, not one of his better passes, but he's lying in that position just behind the others, and West Ham are not picking him up at the moment. Forward by Walker. The intuitive play of Nigel Clough, so important to the way Forest move, and it was significant that he made the direct run which led to the goal. Nigel Clough back there helping. This is Wone to find him again. Forward goes Gary Parker. Crosby over on the right wing. This is Roy Keane, but Bishop got in first. Now it's Parker. Forrest moving well again. Crosby the other way. Keane. Glover. Keane again. It's Roy Keane. It's 2-0 Forest. And the 19-year-old Irish lad who's made his name this season has now written it across the FA Cup semi-final. Clough's team are 2-0 up with less than an hour gone. Another swift, slick, incisive Forest move this. Lee Glover turned well, Roy Keane took it well, and it's 2-0.
Great play by Lee Glover here. Could have took the shot himself but let Roy Keane in.
Just as Potts got his challenge in, Bobby, wasn't it? Just got to touch his shot in before the tackle came in. Well taken.
Yes, Brian Clough still not smiling. I think he might tonight somehow.
Well, it's his 34th attempt at the FA Cup as a player or a manager. He's tired of that statistic, so I won't mention it again until the end if Forest is still winning. But they're in a wonderful position, 2-0 up, and the hammer's down to 10 men. This is Kevin Keane. Now Bishop. And Nigel Clough's contribution in the first quarter of an hour of this second half, highly significant. At the very beginning of that move that led to the second goal, he was involved again. So, Forest are half an hour away from the FA Cup final, which they haven't reached since 1959. And Nigel Clough has had a hand in both the goals. Well, it's going to be a mountainous task for West Ham now. There's no other word for it. A man short, 2 down on a hot day. Chettle clears for Forest. I think it was Ray Wilkins who was saying that Brian Clough would have been exhorting his team in that half-time break to go out and make the extra man tell, and goodness me, the first quarter of an hour of the second half reflects that, with Roy Keane snapping up the second goal off the back of the opener from Gary Crosby. Well played, George Paris, but Stuart Pearce has got the taste of Wembley in his nostrils now. This is Parker. Free kick to Forest, it's going their way. And it's impossible not to feel some sympathy for West Ham owing to the sending off incident, but here's Wone. I think what it did more than anything else tactically, it took George Paris out of midfield, where he was such an influence in so many matches this season. He's got to play right back, really. Wone. Nigel Clough on the chest, little head work as well, beautifully done. It's still Nigel Clough. Oh, I think that must have hit Colin Foster. This is Keane. Forest are beginning to play now their own particular brand of football to feet, for which they're noted. But West Ham break with Martin Allen. Nigel Clough was winding up there for one of the great semi-final goals. Des Walker to Wone. Walker again.
Well, great skill by Nigel Clough there. Nice. Here we have the last goal. Lee Glover, instead of having a shot himself, tucks it inside, and there's Roy Keane on his right foot. Half chance, but buried it nicely.
He's the driving force behind West Ham at the moment, is Paris. That was Morley, nice ball, Kevin Keane. And here is Paris onside, and Kevin Keane! Well, it was a good opening, but he couldn't do what his namesake did at the other end. George Paris set things up. In the end, it turned out to be quite an easy save for Mark Crossley, this, because Keane's shot came straight at him. We've been playing 20 minutes in the second half. Nottingham Forest 2, West Ham United 0. Lee Glover working away there. It's Chettle marking Morley, and for so long West Ham have only had the one striker up there, and he's normally been crowded out, Trevor Morley. This is Stuart Pearce, and good running by Gary Parker from midfield. He'll go to Wone first. Pearce has continued his run down the left. This is Parker. And now Gary Charles moves up from right back. Forest have got 6 men forward. Roy Keane. Parker again, into Clough. Oh, flicked on again to Parker, and now Wone and Parker. It's intricate stuff, this. It's Parker's curler! Fine save by Ludek McCloskey. Gary Parker bent that. And the Czech goalkeeper responded. Good football. And Forest's movement here was excellent. They were working the ball into a position for Parker, and he tried to find the top corner. Great save. That's Roy Keane again. Gary Parker, incidentally, played here in the semi-final for Luton Town back in 1985 against Everton, when Luton were winning 1-0 with 5 minutes to go and got beaten in extra time. David Pleat's team, that was. Well, there, he just about had Wembley in his sights, but McCloskey prevented the third goal, which would surely have settled it. This is Kevin Keane for West Ham. Forest are away again. That was Wone who found Nigel Clough, and good running by Roy Keane to the right here, and Nigel Clough's ball is perfect. This is the Irishman again, Roy Keane. Good save by the keeper. Got the angle absolutely spot on, McCloskey. Don't think Keane did too much wrong. I think it goes down as a good save. Again, Nigel Clough's pass laid into Keane's path to perfection. Don't suppose there are many people that turn on at a time like this. You've probably been with us most of the day, the football fans at home, but if anybody did get delayed over the afternoon, Nottingham Forest leading by 2-0. Gary Crosby on 50 minutes, Roy Keane on 59, and the most significant first half incident, the sending off of West Ham's Tony Gale after 25 minutes for a pullback foul on Gary Crosby. Hotly debated. Here's Paris, and the goalkeeper in charge of that.
One must feel sorry, really, for West Ham. They're in a terrible situation at the moment. But to get something from it, they have to stick together. They don't want to be strung out. They don't want to give unnecessary passes away. And try to keep together still. You might get something out of it, but it's a difficult thing that they've got to do. It's obvious from Nottingham Forest's point of view that they're going to enjoy this next 20-25 minutes. Everyone's looking for the ball. They're supporting one another. Puts a lot of pressure on the defenders at West Ham, and this lad who's got the ball now, Nigel Clough, will play a big part.
This is Crosby. Good support again in the middle here. Still Gary Crosby going all the way until Colin Foster took him out. There's almost a tendency now for Forest to over-elaborate, because they have got different alternatives when they move forward towards that West Ham penalty area, which is what Chettle is doing now for the corner. Crosby to swing it in, or even go short to Parker. "20 minutes left of the 90, and Nottingham Forest appear to have a winning lead. There's Chettle. Oh, over the head of Foster, it's Nigel Clough, and it's Stuart Pearce! And the skipper's got the third. Surely Nottingham Forest are at Wembley now. Surely the long wait is over for Brian Clough in the FA Cup. And surely no more inspirational figure to clinch it for him than his captain, Stuart Pearce. A bad mistake by Colin Foster. He ducked underneath the bouncing ball, really. Clough couldn't finish it, but Stuart Pearce, with his right foot, shall we mention there, certainly did. It's 3-0, and Pearce in off the post.
All over now, John, I'm afraid. They have been enjoying themselves this last 10-15 minutes, Forest, playing good football. And of course, they're getting a bit more dejected now, West Ham at the back. And a lot of indecision there by Colin Foster, which resulted in the goal. Stuart Pearce with his right foot, that's unusual in itself. Nevertheless, I suppose he feels in the situation he can try anything.
Well, the referee even gave Forest a helping foot there, didn't he? Everything's going their way. This is Roy Keane. They've got 5 players up against 4 defenders. This could get almost embarrassing unless West Ham are careful. Well, not like that it won't, because Parker's wasted it. But going back to Stuart Pearce, Bobby, that's his 12th goal of the season from left-back, and none of them have been penalties. What a contribution.
Yes, marvellous. He's a great player. And it would be great to see him at Wembley, which I've no doubt we will now. But for a defender to score all those goals is really special. I know he has got takes great free kicks and penalty kicks, but nevertheless, to get that number of goals from just ordinary players, absolutely brilliant. We're very pleased at our club that Steve Bruce has done the same. It must be something that defenders are thinking about these days, going forward into situations they maybe didn't before. But they're certainly getting the rewards this season.
I think it's because they haven't got so many forwards to mark, you know, Bobby. There's a bit more freedom for them. But certainly Pearce and, as you say, Bruce have put in a handy tally this year. And you don't ever quite know where Pearce is coming from. It's not just from corners and free kicks he gets up there. It's an open play as well. Now then, Nottingham Forest on their way to Wembley, it would seem. Well, I think that might be a booking. The crowd on the far side reacted to the tackle, and Roy Keane, I don't think there's any real need actually to do that in that part of the field, but the yellow card is shown to a young man who's had quite an afternoon. And now there's going to be a substitution by West Ham, and the man coming off is Trevor Morley, just come back into action following that stabbing injury, and the replacement is the Ireland international, Northern Ireland, Jimmy Quinn. Well, he came off the bench to score the winner against Crewe in the 5th round. He needs to do rather better than that today if he's going to rescue West Ham. They're 3-0 down, and the second half has belonged to the red shirts of Nottingham Forest. Des Walker. There's a flag up there, offside, I think. Well, he's a happy young man, isn't he? Might be starting to think about whether he can get a ticket for May the 18th. Well, the face of a man who's taken his team and these supporters and others like them to Wembley in the League Cup 5 times with 4 wins, but in the FA Cup, Brian Clough is within minutes now of reaching Wembley for the first time. Off goes Martin Allen, and on comes Ray Stewart, who only came back into the first team after an absence of over 2 years in the week. Here's George Parris. Quinn has made a forward run for West Ham. So Brian Clough's team selection, ignoring the claims of Jensen and to an extent Hodge, seems to have paid off. There'll be some competition for places now before Wembley, I can tell you. This is Wone and Glover, the 2 recent additions to the team. Stuart Pearce. And what about the goal count since the semi-finals went live on BBC television? 4-3 here last year, Liverpool Palace, 3-3 at Manchester. So far here today, 3-0 to Forest. off the back of 3-1 for Spurs. I won't add them up now, but you can. Here's Charles. Back into Charles' path from Glover. Charles shoots. It's number 4, and it's the young right back, Gary Charles. A great moment for him. That, without any doubt at all, clinches Nottingham Forest's place in the 1991 FA Cup final, and definitely ends the long wait for an applauding Brian Clough. And Gary Charles, 21 years old yesterday, gives himself the kind of present, little deflection perhaps, he won't mind about that any player would want. The goal that puts the semi-final beyond any doubt at all. So West Ham go 4-0 down after 81 minutes. And a smiling manager knows now that it's Forest versus Spurs on the 18th of May. Just as I was saying that Palace scored 4 here last year, Forest go and do exactly the same. Slater for West Ham. And again. Well played by Potts. And here's George Paris. Is there a consolation? Well, there's a corner. Eight minutes to go. Foster is forward. Quinn, who's recently come on, is there as well. Half out there by Pearce. I can't remember Gary Charles scoring a first-team goal for Forest before, but he certainly took that one like a forward, didn't he, Bobby?
Yes, well, they're queuing up now to go forward. Every time they go up front, they look as though they're going to score a goal. And it's great for these young lads. They probably thought this was going to be a real test for them this afternoon. It's probably turned out a little easier than they thought. So they want to enjoy it while they've got it. Everyone's going forward trying to get a goal.
And there's Lee Glover, who hasn't got one yet. Pearce, who has. Bishop. And now West Ham break with Quinn. A chance here for the Hammers. It's a good chance too. Jimmy Quinn would have expected to score there, wouldn't he?
Should have scored. Yes, on his left foot, plenty of time. Just pulled it wide.
It's given Forest so much more space in which to play. This is Roy Keane, Glover in the middle. Crosby coming up in support, number 7. Well, we shan't be needing extra time today. Not in either semi-final. 2 clear-cut victories. And Forest moving forward, looking for number 5. Not often a team can relax and freewheel a bit in a semi-final, but there's so much in charge now. That's a foul by Ray Stewart on Stuart Pearce. Gary Parker sizing up the chances of curling one, but says no, gives it to Wone instead. Played in for Glover. And again. Well, in this spring sunshine, my mind goes back to the fog-bound days by the Trent in January when Forest couldn't get their third-round match played against Crystal Palace. They're 4 minutes away now from Wembley. It's a great competition, this FA Cup. And it's got to have its sad side, as reflected today in what's happened to West Ham, particularly in the first half. Chettle with Quinn. Then Charles gets involved. Oh, good ball by Quinn. It's Kevin Keane for West Ham. He's away from the goalkeeper. Chips it. George Paris stretching. Couldn't get the contact he needed. But all credit to West Ham. They've had a real go, Bobby, really, in the last 5 minutes, as much as any other time.
Epitomised by that man there. Billy Bonds, always the type that wanted to do everything he could. 100% player. George Paris, he's so tired he couldn't actually get the height to put the ball in the back of the net. But brilliant.
Off goes Roy Keane. What a day he's had. And into the action. I'm sure that's a deliberate ploy by Brian Clough to give Brian Laws, a good, solid, experienced pro, a taste of the semi-final. And, well, they'll remember Roy Keane for his first year in league football, and he's going to finish it would seem, in the FA Cup final at Wembley. Also strikes me that both the Forest fullbacks have scored. That can't happen very often in a semi-final. Pearce and Charles. But then again, there's been that sort of freedom. Here's Laws. Crosby, Parker. I just wonder how Brian Clough is going to react when the final whistle goes. You just never know with the man. He might walk off, he might stay out, we shall see. 2 minutes to go, his team are 4-0 up, and they're having a joyride to Wembley now. His son Nigel directing operations in masterful style in the second half. He's found Wone. Oh, the space here. It's Laws, and now it's Crosby. And Crosby again. That hit Colin Foster. Some tired legs now on the West Ham side. Crosby still. Charles. And it's Pearce. Through by Clough. Tries to find Pearce again. Potts. This is Quinn. And Nigel Clough, well, when you're 4 up in a semi-final, your legs want to go on and on. And he made a tackle there, which actually has brought both himself and Jimmy Quinn to the ground. We've just got a minute to go here at Villa Park. And Forest faces reflecting that they are close to something which to their club is extra special. It's 32 years since Nottingham Forest reached the FA Cup final. They beat Luton Town in 1959, and it's about to happen again. The West Ham physio, John Green, is on the pitch, attending to substitute Jimmy Quinn.
Well, I'm very pleased for Nottingham Forest. They're a marvellous club. Maurice Roth, the chairman, and all his directors, right through from Brian Clough, right through the boot boy. It's a marvellous club, and they deserve this little place in history. Brian Clough, what can be said? There'll be lots of words written about him between now and the final, and he'll have a lot to say.
And here's Lee Glover, the man who Brian Clough selected ahead of Nigel Jemson today. Nigel Clough, a good pass forward, and they're on the move again with Wone. This is now time being added on for stoppages, and there's Brian Laws, the substitute. It opened up for him, but he shot wide. Nice for Brian Laws. I remember at Old Trafford, 2 years ago in that replayed semi-final against Liverpool, he had the misfortune to put the ball in his own goal and send Liverpool to Wembley. But today, a very different scene for Nottingham Forest. And for those players who've been involved, like Brian Clough, in 2 losing semi-finals in the last 3 years, the tide has turned for them. And surely nobody with a heart in football would begrudge them that.
No, he must go down as one of the great managers, Brian Clough. He's running off now. He reckons he's done his job. He's motivated the players. He's got them to play really marvellous football, and they're at Wembley. Well played.
The man of the moment has left the arena. And how typical that he should do something other managers perhaps wouldn't do, because the final whistle has gone and Nottingham Forest are through to Wembley to play